Why, hello there, lost family. Or maybe you're new here. A wanderer just stumbling onto the Lost Gamer's path. Either way, the journey begins again. Today we're exploring the murky depths of Reddit, r/pettyrevenge. So stay close. It's easy to get lost out here. So we're looking at petty revenge, and I'm testing out just the mic on my laptop. So hopefully it's good. If it's not, then we might go back to using my plug-in mic or maybe my headset mic. I don't know. We'll just experiment. I haven't been totally satisfied with my other mic. It just seems like it's so pitchy. I don't know if this will be better, but we'll test some things out. Anyway, I guess I'll just jump right into the first story. We set up a kettle station in the bedroom in an act of malicious compliance. We've been having issues with two roommates for a while. Our pettiness has reached a new level this week. One of the girls has claimed ownership of a tiny space of the kitchen worktop, conveniently right next to where we have our kitchen utensils, of course. We'd left out our toasty maker for an hour to cool down. She freaked out. Anyway, since the concept of things being on her worktop is so distressing for her, we've decided we should politely confiscate our kettle from the kitchen. She 1000% uses it literally all the time, but we wouldn't want to upset the poor girl by putting things on her worktop, would we? Anyway, we've gone a full month. We have set up the kettle in our room, bought those little hotel milk things, brought in the sugar and the mugs, and all the sugar and tea from the kitchen. It basically feels like a little hotel setup. Mwahahaha. The petty revenge worked. Girl is mad, but obviously can't make any comments on the matter without sounding deranged, winky face. Well, I approve of that. That's very mild. It's not really malicious, really. So it says malicious in the title, but I wouldn't consider this fully malicious. It is maybe I would say it is a little bit petty revenge, but it's not going too far, so I like that. I like when things can be a little bit light and not going like way too far. She already sounds deranged. What makes her think she can claim part of the counter for her exclusive use? I'd ignore that demand. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. It's a shared space. Her own personal bedroom would be fine for her workspace, but yeah, it's kind of crazy to be living with multiple roommates and claim one of the public areas as your space of work. That's a little crazy. Someone commented under that, yeah, calling dibs on a shared kitchen counter like it's private property is wild. Ignoring it would have been valid, but your kettle hotel setup is way funnier and way more effective. I don't know. I don't know if it's more effective, but I like it. It sounds fun. What about biscuits? You need biscuits/cookies with your tea/coffee. I like your way of thinking. I'm petty too. Yeah, I agree with the biscuit/cookie thing. They definitely need biscuits or cookies or both. OP replied under that, yes, you're so right. We will get some biscuits. This person commented under that, I am now envisioning a full fancy hotel setup with decorative jars of biscuits, choice of teas, coffees, and chocolates too. Long live the petty. I like that. And all the teaspoons. Yeah, they could move all the teaspoons. That would be funny. Okay, let's move on to the next story, shall we? It's another roommate one. My ex-roommates mocked me for wanting to lock the door, so I stole a potato peeler from their unlocked apartment. In the summer of 2020, I, then 20 female, moved into an apartment with Joel, 24 male, and Sadie, 23 female, who were best friends with each other and acquaintances of mine from school. It was my first time living outside of my parents' house. The apartment was in a really sketchy area of town. The cops were there multiple times a week, and we had items stolen from our vehicles. This was the best apartment we could afford since we all paid equal rent. Joel was a medical student from a wealthy family, but Sadie and I were both earning well below the poverty line. A constant fight between my roommates and I was over locking the door. If you're living in a sketchy part of town, I feel like it should just be common sense to lock the door. Especially you've had things stolen from your cars, so that just seems like it should be common sense. Anyway, it continues. They would leave the apartment completely unlocked whenever they left. I repeatedly asked them to please keep the door locked when nobody was home, since my laptop and other valuables were in the apartment. I needed my laptop for work, but could not afford to replace it if it was stolen. For sure. Yeah, that's just kind of ridiculous. That should just be common sense to keep it locked up. Every time I asked this, they totally brushed me off and implied that I was being stupid and overly anxious, okay? If you've literally had things stolen from your car, that's proof that it's not being overly anxious. They totally brushed me off and implied that I was being stupid or overly anxious for wanting to lock the door. I was teased and ridiculed for this request on multiple occasions, and they never respected my wishes. They said that if anything got stolen, we could just replace it. Okay, so Sadie is also not making very much money, and she's that flippant about money? Okay. That's kind of crazy. Are they going to replace your stuff too, since they're the ones that are being irresponsible? They should. If something got stolen, it should be on them, since they're the ones being irresponsible. I came home on many occasions to an empty apartment with the door unlocked. They were okay roommates other than that, but this was a reoccurring point of tension. After a few months of living with them, I moved into a different apartment in the same complex with my friend Maggie, 20 female. Maggie and I were very much on the same page about keeping the door locked. And that's just intelligent. Just kind of basic common sense, really. We remained relatively cordial with Joel and Sadie, and occasionally said hi in the parking lot, but we didn't hang out with them, since they weren't taking the events of 2020 seriously at all. One evening, I was cooking dinner alone in my apartment, and to my dismay, our potato peeler was nowhere to be found. I scoured the whole kitchen and couldn't find it. And unfortunately, the peeler was essential to the meal I was making. Well, technically you can just use a knife, but I get it. They're definitely more convenient. Anyway, it continues. I decided to go see if Joel and Sadie were home and willing to loan me their potato peeler. I walked over to their building. Our keys got us into any building in the complex. Went up to their apartment and knocked on the door. No answer. Then something snapped in me. Though I knew I shouldn't, I tried the door. And of course, it was unlocked, because the nitwits always left it unlocked. I added that bit. I went into their dark, empty apartment, grabbed their potato peeler out of their kitchen drawer, and took it back to my own apartment, and never said anything to them about it. 6 years later, I still have that potato peeler. Small revenge, but extremely satisfying. Yeah, I suppose so. That's a pretty small one, so at least, again, it's not really that harmful. Technically, though, it is stealing, so, technically illegal. Naughty, naughty. Don't do it. This person says, this is very satisfying. I would have taken the batteries out of as many electronics as possible. Especially if you just, hide them in a random place, and at least that's not stealing. I wonder if they ever actually noticed it was gone. Or made, were worried about it at all. Maybe that's what they done to them. Maybe they accidentally left their apartment unlocked one day and their potato peeler was stolen since she couldn't find it anywhere. Never know. This person says, I would have started moving things and or leaving things in their apartment to freak them out. That actually does sound pretty funny. Though I commend the potato peeler. I would avoid stealing things, as that would worsen the potential charges if caught. Scoop a bowl of ice cream and leave it on the coffee table to melt. That's actually that's kind of, that's solid revenge. Steal the Pyrex plate from the microwave. Those things are impossible to replace without buying a new microwave. I feel like that one's going too far. They were just being dumb and leaving the door unlocked. It's not that big of a deal. And that would be a little bit bigger of an expense. So this person says, would have stolen all the toilet paper rolls but left one single sheet. Devil emoji. This person commented under that, stolen every left sock. My family actually had that happen. Not the left sock thing specifically, but had, my mom was renting to somebody, a kind of crazy person, a trailer next to us, and we were out of town for a while. She ended up trying to convince this person to leave while we were out away. And when we came back, there was a huge puddle on the floor that was just completely mysterious, never happened before or since. And all of our tea towels were gone. And it seemed like some of our Tupperware things were, lids missing to one thing, the bowl missing to another, that type of stuff. Just petty, annoying things. So that was fun. Ultimately, though, it didn't seem like anything serious was gone, though, so I guess. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next story with my little tangent out of the way. I saved 5 years of discarded dog bones and returned them to my neighbor. Occasionally, while cutting grass, I would find small chunks of bone scattered about my backyard, maybe once every other month, the kind someone would give to their dog to gnaw on. My yard is fenced in, and all of my neighbors only has one big enough dog for that kind of a thing. So I had my suspicions about who was responsible, but I never knew for sure. It was a mild inconvenience, but I always just picked them up and tossed them inside this little storage container. That's petty. To just have this planned for 5 years and be collecting the bone shards for 5 years. That's crazy. I don't necessarily disapprove, though. Anyway, it continues. Over the years, I accrued quite a collection of them. One day, I came home from work in the early afternoon, and as I was pulling into my driveway, I saw something get lobbed over the shared fence with my neighbor, who I always suspected. Older guy. I think he was cutting grass. I'm guessing he didn't want to run it over with his mower, and instead of acting like a human being and disposing of it properly, he throws it into my backyard because he's a piece of... Now, I pride myself on being a reasonable person, but I can also be petty, vindictive, and a little bit of an a-hole under the right circumstances. I could call him out on it, and he might stop. And he might do it more just to be a jerk. So I decided to just return his bones. And if he wanted to have a conversation about it afterwards, we could absolutely do that. Fast forward to sundown, I go outside and proceed to throw probably 100 bone chunks over the fence over the course of a half hour. There was something deeply satisfying about it. Cathartic, even. A week or so later, we see each other when we're both leaving our homes. I'd only laid eyes on the guy 2 or 3 times in the 5 years I lived there, night shift hours. I would characterize his facial expression as severely disgruntled. I couldn't stop smiling. He didn't say a word about it. How could he? He'd have to acknowledge what he'd been doing for years. Haven't seen a bone since. See, that's another one that I like because it's not really going too far. It's fairly mild, definitely a deep inconvenience for his neighbor, but maybe it'll teach him a lesson about throwing things over people's fence. This person commented, when we bought our house in 2016, my now ex-spouse and I were both smokers. The neighbors came by, were very friendly, and I was truly impressed by how subtly they worked into the conversation that they kept all the previous owners' cigarette butts that landed in their yard for a month and then dumped them on the front steps. I wonder how they went about, working that into the conversation. That's kind of funny anyway. It continues, it took me a minute to realize it was a polite warning. That's good. I like that. This person says, nice one, laughing face, subtle but definite, and I'll do it again. It continues, years ago I was playing in the backyard with my dog and he decided his favorite toy that day was a head he'd pulled off of a teddy bear. So we're goofing off and he's trying to get the head off of me, and when I throw it, it's a complete misfire. The head goes over the fence into the neighbor's backyard. So I grabbed her when I saw her coming home. Hey, sorry, I accidentally tossed one of my dog's toys over the fence. She's cool, promises to throw it back over, like she thought that's what I was asking for. Thanks, that's appreciated, but mainly I didn't want you to think something weird was going on when you find a severed head in your backyard. Yeah, that was probably a good choice. That would definitely look a little bit weird. Someone comments under that, did you at the time specify it was a teddy bear head? I I hope so. That would sound rather concerning otherwise. This person says, old guy next door used to throw his fat cigar butts over the fence to our backyard. My cousin and I collected around 20 of them and put them in their mail slot. Didn't see more after that. That's good. I like that. Okay, let's move on to the next story, shall we? Sister caught her partner cheating, so she blunted his knives. A bit of backstory. My sister dated a man in his early 30s who had a deep fear of sharp objects of any kind. A fear so deep my sister cut his food for him for the entirety of their relationship. Okay. As knives and scissors caused him panic attacks. Okay, interesting phobia. He said the texture of cutting raw meat especially made him think of human flesh and caused scary thoughts. What kind of scary thoughts? That would concern me a little bit. I hope she knew kind of, what the thoughts were, because that's right off the bat seeming just a little bit concerning. Just a little. It continues. She even went so far as to hide the knives under the sink instead of in their block, just to accommodate him. Yeah, that's sounding a little concerning, having to hide sharp. Maybe I'm just not understanding, I don't know. When my sister discovered he was cheating, he blew up and started screaming, not just at my sister, but at her 10-year-old child. That's really inappropriate. Yeah, that combined with the other stuff is kind of making me concerned about what kind of person this is. Is he kind of a scary sort? I don't know. It continues, horrible, mean, nasty things. That is super duper inappropriate. So when my sister came back and packed her things the next day, she went to the knife block, which ironically was his, took the knives he would use to cut meat, went out to the patio and tapped the blade against the concrete, dulling them, and putting nicks in the blade, so any future cutting would be a sensory nightmare for him. Evil genius. Yeah, I would imagine that would probably make it worse. This person says, blunt the knives, bend the forks, smash the bottles, and burn the corpse. Chip the glasses and crack the plates. That's what a cheater hates. I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. I'm pretty sure, isn't that a Hobbit thing? I like it either way. Cut the cloth, tread on the fat. Leave the bones on the bedroom mat. Pour the milk on the pantry floor. Splash the wine on every door. I like it. Dump the crocks in a boiling bowl. Pound them up with a thumping pole. When you're finished, if they are whole, send them down the hall to roll. I like this. I like this thread of comments a lot. This thread healed me. That's funny. Don't forget to put shrimp shells in the curtain rods and heat ducks. That is a gift that keeps on giving. Yeah, I imagine it would. This comment reads, how is it possible for a man like that to have any woman willing to sleep with him? Yeah, that is an interesting question. I mean, I guess it is good to be, sensitive to people's anxieties. It does seem a little strange to me, but ultimately, if he's having panic attacks, I guess. Mostly, I'm a little bit concerned about the scary thoughts comment and the human flesh comment, you know? Those were the most concerning things to me. This person comments under that. Too many women with really low standards. I don't know. Having to cut up meat for a grown man would make me feel like his mommy, and I'd be as dry as the dang Sahara. Hey Siri, what specialist handles down there tumbleweeds? Yeah, for sure. This person says, I don't mind it for my SO because he has cerebral palsy, and the fine motor of cutting things on a plate often results in the horrific sound as his knife drags across the plate. Yeah, it's definitely, it's kind to help in that scenario. It's fine to do that anyway, but anyway, she continues. So I just chop all our meats into inch or so chunks on a cutting board before serving on the plates. Trust me, he more than makes up for it in other ways, which this dude clearly did not. Yeah, that's definitely my main thing about this is it's just crazy. Cheaters. Cheaters. My feeling that everyone is entitled to one bizarre quirk, if someone is otherwise a good partner, which admittedly this guy was not. I'm willing to accept something weird. Yeah, for sure. If he was good otherwise, then it wouldn't even be conversation, really. Funny how a dull knife is actually more dangerous than a sharp one. Yeah. Someone comments under that. Makes it even more diabolical, to be honest. Not just petty, but low-key sabotage, too. Okay, so I guess with that, our little adventure comes to an end here, for now. But the path never truly does. If you enjoyed getting lost with me, show me with a like or a comment. It helps me and my channel far more than you know. And if you wish to keep traveling these hidden trails, subscribe. And I'll see you when the path reveals itself again. Bye for now.